How the hell do these JD Vance leaks keep getting worse and worse? Every single time I open my phone, it's JD Vance just saying the most horrendous thing possible, and it's making me wonder, did Donald Trump's team not vet him at all, or did they vet him and think, sweet, this guy hates women just as much as us? Either way, I need to break down this New York Times report that highlights how JD Vance championed a 2017 report on families from the architects of Project 2025, and it's about what is in this report that JD Vance championed that is so revealing about his mindset. I mean, we already know how he feels about women who aren't able to have children, families that are incomplete for one reason or another, but he just keeps taking it to new extremes. Well, actually, he's trying to soften his stance publicly now, but we can find out that he had extreme stances from unearthed videos from just 2 or 3 years ago. JD Vance, as he was dipping his toe into politics, praised the Heritage Foundation report. 29 essays opposing abortion and seeking to instruct Americans on how to raise children. He called it admirable. Years before he became the Republican vice presidential nominee, JD Vance endorsed a Little Notice 2017 report by the Heritage Foundation that proposed a sweeping conservative agenda to restrict sexual and reproductive freedoms and remake American families. I want to show you this clip from MSNBC where they highlight the craziest parts of this report. Take a look and make sure you leave a like on this video and make sure you subscribe to the Mockler channel. Let's jump into it.
This time it's JD Vance endorsing a series of extremely restrictive conservative essays on how families are made in America and what those families should look like. The New York Times unearthed the 2017 set of essays which Vance praised and wrote an introduction for. It is a Heritage Foundation report, including with arguments that women should get pregnant younger instead of using IVF treatments as, quote, magic pills to delay motherhood for professional advancement, that the ideal family is anchored by heterosexual parents, that abortion should be considered unthinkable in America, and that hunger is a good motivator for greater employment.
Again, I can't tell which is worse, if the Trump team vetted this guy and still went with him because they thought this wasn't that bad, or if they just never dug into this at all. Either way, it shows a level of incompetence from a team that we'll never want in the White House again. In a series of 29 separate essays, conservative commentators, policy experts, community leaders, and Christian clergy members opposed the spread of IVF and other fertility treatments, describing those treatments as harmful to women. They praised the rapidly expanding number of state laws restricting abortion rights and access, saying that the procedure should become unthinkable in America. And they cited hunger as a great motivation for Americans to find work. And can I just show that this highlights how much JD Vance and Donald Trump flip-flop on abortion? I don't even think it's them flip-flopping. I think it's them talking out of both sides of their mouth. Deep down, on a fundamental level, they oppose IVF, they oppose abortion, they probably oppose contraception. We have seen laws passed that show that they do, but when they are speaking publicly over the last month or two, Donald Trump acts like he opposes these 6-week abortion bans when he's praised them in the past. I also want to show you this unearthed video of JD Vance attacking women who can't have kids. I mean, every single clip of him gets more and more disgusting. We'll return to the article, but take a look at this.
And I wouldn't say that I have fully developed views on this, but to me what it is sort of a value system to replace the fact that they're all fundamentally atheist or agnostic. They have no real value system. Their only value system is achieve in a very conventional way. And so the idea that somehow they're pursuing racial or gender equity is like the value system that gives their life meaning. Well, of course, they all find that that value system leads to misery, leads to unhappiness. And so I think that what happens is, like, whenever you really pursue something, right? Like, let's say a doctor gives you a medicine to cure a disease and it doesn't work, right? The patient gets worse. Well, you can conclude one of two things. Either the medicine isn't working, or the patient was so sick that what they need is even more of the medicine that you originally prescribed.
Sorry to cut off JD Vance. Actually, I'm not sorry, but his whole worldview is so shallow and flawed. He thinks that if you're agnostic, you have no value system, so you replace that with DEI or with gender inclusion, but that is not the case at all. I don't need a book to tell me not to kill or steal or cheat my way through life. I genuinely don't need a book to do that. I think everybody's well-being and happiness in society would be maximized if none of us stole stole or cheated or killed. So I live by that value system. I don't need a book to tell me that, but let me continue to JD Vance's crazy part.
Right. And I think the gender inequity stuff is like, we need more of the medicine. Okay, clearly this value set has made me a miserable person who can't have kids because I already, passed the biological period when it was possible. And I live in a 1,200 square foot apartment in New York and I pay $5,000 a month for it. But I'm really better than these other people. What I'm going to do is project my racial and gender sensitivities on the rest of them. And the reason that our society is broken is because these people don't think the exact way that I think. Even though the way that I think has made me a miserable person, I just need to make more people think like that.
Okay, so I'm going to tell you exactly where JD Vance is going wrong in his thinking about liberal women. First of all, what it sounds like he's saying right here in this clip is that liberal women don't have any real value system, so they replace that with the gender equity stuff. They make everything about their gender, but JD Vance is totally misunderstanding what is happening. JD Vance seems to think that the average woman on the left would hate having a family, loathes children, never wants to build a real life or career, all in the name of equality, but that is not what is happening at all. I mean, are there crazy people on Twitter who probably say stuff like that? Yes, lunatics always exist online, but when we're talking about reality, in real life, when we're talking about easing inequality in the workforce, it is because men and women are socialized in different ways, and we're trying to build equality into our daily lives. So, for example, if you've ever taken an engineering or coding class in college, it's going to be like 80 to 90% men in those classes, not because men are hardwired to code or engineer, but because they are socialized to grow up playing video games, using computers more, and now, in 2024, we have eased that, so hopefully the classes will look more like 50-50, maybe still 60-40, but women are often socialized to either become teachers or nurses or put their lives on hold entirely to have children or never even enter the workforce in the first place so they can have children. So what we're trying to do is socialize women and men in the same way and say, hey, if a woman wants to pursue coding or engineering or whatever these male-coded jobs are, then they can, and if men want to stay home and do that, that is fine. But JD Vance, I think, from a fundamental level, doesn't understand that, or he understands it and just doesn't want women to enter the workforce in the first place. Maybe a little bit of both. He doesn't have a solid grasp on what is happening, so because of that, he's angry and just doesn't want women to enter the workforce. Let me play the rest of this clip. If you've learned something from what I just said, let me know in the comment section below.
Can't have kids because I already, passed the biological period when it was possible. And I live in a 1,200 square foot apartment in New York and I pay $5,000 a month for it. But I'm really better than these other people. What I'm going to do is project my racial and gender sensitivities on the rest of them. And the reason that our society is broken is because these people don't think the exact way that I think. Even
when JD Vance says stuff about racial and gender sensitivities, it makes me think that he thinks every single liberal, people like you and I, are the craziest people that you can find on Twitter. So I'm just going to say, yes, people are always melting down on Twitter about random stuff, but that is not representative of the average person on the left. JD Vance saw one wild Twitter thread and thinks that that's how you and I act, but it's not at all.
Even though the way that I think has made me a miserable person, I just need to make more people think like that. So we're going to teach this in our schools, in our universities, even in our elementary schools, because once everybody agrees with me, then everything will finally come.
The projection here is wild. JD Vance is talking about wanting to make other people miserable through dictating what they learn in schools. I don't think it's the liberals doing that, buddy.